She was apparently recovering from shock, but wasn't badly hurt. The witness, the girl whose scream probably saved Mrs. Hastings' life, was telling her story.
Miss, I'm Lieutenant Weston.
Oh, hello, I'm Marzelle Hendricks.
How do you do? I'd like to ask you a few questions. What are you doing here?
Well, here at the students' boarding house, we take turns putting out the trash.
And tonight it was your turn?
Yes. And as I was walking out to the street, I noticed Mrs. Hastings walking along alone.
Did you know it was Mrs. Hastings?
Oh, yes. Everyone knows Mrs. Hastings.
Then what happened?
Well, then this man sprang out from behind the building. He was wearing a white handkerchief around his face. And then he dangled this rope in front of her eyes for a minute. It was like a hideous warning that she had only a few seconds left to live. And then he threw the rope around her neck, and I screamed. And then the man dropped the rope and ran away.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. Mrs. Hastings, do you feel like talking?
Yes, of course, I'm all right now.
Did you notice anything about this man that you might be able to recognize if you saw him again?
No, I'm sorry, I don't think so.
What about you?
Well, we didn't see anything, but we heard Marzelle scream and came as fast as we could.
May I have your name?
Todd Leslie.
Am I right in assuming that you two were together?
Right. That's right. I'm Cam Halsey.
How do you do? Where were you two when you heard Miss Hendricks scream?
On the edge of campus, heading toward Faculty Row. That's this street.
What was going on when you got here?
Well, by the time we got here, Marzelle had already carried Mrs. Hastings into the house. She was lying there unconscious, and Marzelle was trying to revive her.
Then I called the police, and Todd went outside and waited for you.
Thank you, boys. Miss Hendricks, you said everybody knew Mrs. Hastings. Now, is that because she's a professor's wife, or is there another reason?
Well, Mrs. Hastings is very active here. She's taking a postgraduate course in criminology, and she often lectures the students on crime and criminals.
What happened to the rope the man used?
Oh, I have it. Excuse me. This is it, and this is the handkerchief.
Handkerchief?
Yes, it was lying on the ground near Mrs. Hastings.
Thank you. Mrs. Hastings, do you recognize this handkerchief?
Why, yes, of course. It's one of a box I gave my husband for Christmas. See? Louis Hastings. How'd it get here?
It was worn by the man who attacked you.
My husband?
All right. I admit I am the man that attacked Nancy.
Louis.
Well, I realize it was a silly thing to do, Nancy. I'm sorry. But I was just trying to teach her a lesson.
Teach her a lesson?
Well, yes. You see, she believes that these mad killers are just sick men, not criminals. She thinks they should be given a seat in a classroom or a bed in a hospital, not put in an asylum or a prison or executed, no matter how many people they may have ruthlessly and brutally murdered.
Is this true?
Some of it. My husband's a materialist. He refuses to recognize the fact that these poor creatures don't kill because they're criminals, but because they're emotionally disturbed.
She wouldn't let me escort her home tonight. She said that if she ran into this killer, she'd just invite him here for dinner. Well, all I wanted to do was to show her that she's not a superwoman.
If you admit imitating the Compulsion killer tonight, how do we know you haven't imitated him on other occasions? Let's say 4 other occasions.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Well, how do we know you wouldn't have killed Mrs. Hastings if you hadn't been interrupted?
Now, just a minute. We may disagree on social problems, but we're not about to kill each other.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Hastings, but a Compulsion killer kills without reason. And this situation certainly warrants further questioning. I'm holding you on suspicion of assault with a deadly weapon and complicity in 4 murders. Come in.
Good morning, Counselor.
John?
Sit down. What can I do for you this morning?
Thank you.
I suppose you know I believe the professor was telling the truth last night.
Herb, I have great respect for your judgment. But there are times when I have a certain respect for my own.
Oh, that's natural. I even remember the time you were right. Seriously, though, John, I don't believe that there's any connection between the compulsion killer and Professor Hastings. He'd have no reason.
No reason. That's it exactly, Herb. Why do you suppose they call him the compulsion killer? Because there seems to be no reason for his crimes.
I know. I've done some investigating. There were 3 young women, all university students, very attractive at that, who were killed on or in the neighborhood of the university campus.
And one equally attractive woman was killed at the Whitewater Resort, where the university has several summer courses in various subjects.
I know that, too.
But Professor Hastings has never been able to prove, not even in one instance, that he was somewhere else when the crimes were committed.
Hastings teaches geology. He isn't used to furnishing alibis.
But he was also lecturing at Whitewater when a young woman was killed there.
Whitewater was full of university students at the time.
But Herb, we never found one of them wearing a white handkerchief and trying to strangle somebody.
John, in every other attack, the killer waited for the victim to pass him, then threw a noose around his neck from behind.
That's right.
Last night, Professor Hastings jumped from behind a building and faced his wife.
Is that your argument?
Yes.
Well, you know, it's a very good one. But I don't think it's going to impress the district attorney.
Well, it impresses me, along with a lot of other things. I'd like to talk to Mrs. Hastings, if you don't mind. I think I've got a theory that might uncover the real compulsion killer. Lieutenant?
Yeah?
From what I've seen so far, I doubt that Professor Hastings ever had a compulsion.
Oh, Herb, I wish I could say the same for you.
Now, what can you lose? You can't let a bunch of inexperienced university students go on a killer hunt without some supervision.
My position is that we have the suspect in custody.
Well, suppose you're in the wrong position.
Well, that'll be Professor Hastings for further interrogation, so if you'll excuse me.
Mind if I sit in? I expect to defend him.
You know, Herb, there are times when I wish you were in the furniture business. Come in. Thanks, Joe. I'll give you 10 minutes with your client. Now, when I have to ask him, I'm going to ask him in private.
What have you two been arguing about, whether I'm guilty or not?
Just a moment, Hastings.
I don't see why you settle for me in a cell when the actual murderer, a man who snuffed out 4 lives, is still roaming that campus.
Professor Hastings, I talked to your wife last night.
Never mind about my wife, and never mind about me. It's those kids on campus I'm worried about.
Weston. Yeah. I'll be right there.
What's the matter?
Another attack on the campus. A young man has been stabbed, wounded very seriously.
Kathy, she let him have it.
How is Sappy?
After what he pulled, Herb, I'd say he was a lucky guy. He'll live. Well, that's all we can do here. No arrest, no charges.
Well, I'll be getting along.
Thank you, Miss Hendricks.
You're welcome.
You know, if the students really believed that you had the compulsion killer under arrest, that girl wouldn't have been carrying the scissors.
Counselor, emotional young women are liable to do anything.
But they're not in the habit of going around stabbing people.
You have a suggestion?
Yes, the idea I gave you in the office. Remember, they laughed at Robert Fulton?
Robert Fulton. Okay, Herb, you sold me. What's your idea?
Well, first, I'd like to talk to Mrs. Hastings. She's the alpha and omega of this situation.
The beginning and the end.
The beginning and the end. Mrs. Hastings, most of the students and others at the university are very well aware of your views concerning crime and mental illness.
Yes, I imagine they are.
But no one outside of this room, including Professor Hastings, knows that you've changed your opinion on how to handle these people.
That's right.
Well, this is the basis of our plan. The main characteristic of the mentally unstable is egoism.
That's right.
I have always championed the cause of the so-called psycho killer. That's right. Because...
Lieutenant, I've picked out 10 members of the football team, and we've set up stations all along the campus.
Lieutenant, I want to join this patrol, but Todd doesn't think I should.
Neither do I.
Well, look, I can handle myself very well, Lieutenant, probably better than most men. And there's another thing.
What?
One of the victims of this madman was my best friend.
I'm sorry, I understand how you feel. As a matter of fact, there's not going to be any campus patrol tonight.
What?
But the guys are all ready, just waiting for word from you.
Send them home. Tell them the proposition is canceled.
Now, wait a minute, Lieutenant.
You wait a minute, all of you. I'm sick and tired of a lot of civilians trying to tell me how to run my business.
But you said...
Never mind what I said. 10 members of a football team sneaking around the campus waiting for a killer to show up. I say it's stupid. This man has killed 4 people. Nobody's ever seen what he looks like. You think he's dumb enough not to know the football team is out there trying to stop him?
Well, what are you going to do now?
Send the football team home. Then go home yourselves, all of you. Let the police department take over. Do you mind?
No, I don't mind. But Mrs. Hastings is over there in the library. Who's going to protect her on her way home?
I don't think she needs protection. I think we have the killer under lock and key, and that's my attitude until somebody else proves otherwise.
For instance, until Mrs. Hastings or some other woman is killed.
Young man, all you've got to do is do as you're told. We're going to be watching the Hastings house, and we're going to be watching the street out there.
Listen, there are long stretches on this campus, especially between the library and the street. Now, who's going to watch those?
How many times do I have to say it? This is police business, not student business. Nothing's going to happen to Mrs. Hastings on the campus, because we're going to be on the job out there.
Lieutenant, I think you're making a big mistake.
Counselor, I think you're interfering in something that doesn't concern you. Now, the meeting's adjourned. Break it up. Go home, all of you.
Come on, Cam. Good night, Lieutenant. Have fun.
Brother, I don't get this at all.
Hey, wait a minute, Cam. I'm going with you. You know, I live here, but I don't like the present company.
Fine work, Sergeant Mulligan.
Anytime for you, Lieutenant. Thank you.
That was quite a show you put on for the students over at the boarding house. Have you ever considered acting as a hobby, Lieutenant?
I was considering it as a profession. And I was thinking of making police work my hobby.
Well, as the sergeant said, any time for you, Lieutenant.
Wonderful to have you back home again.
You see, Nance, even I wouldn't walk across campus by myself at night.